A contractor told me that his Facebook leads were garbage, so I looked at his account. His office called Monday at 9, which honestly, it's a normal, well-run office. But by Monday at 9, that same homeowner had already gotten a text back, taken a call, and had an estimate booked for Wednesday with someone else. He wasn't slow, he was second. His leads weren't garbage, his system was. And he was about to fire his agency and blame Facebook for it. In this video, I'm going to show you 5 places a contractor's campaign breaks. Today, you find yours. Your video ads aren't failing. You're losing $12,000 jobs to companies that answered first, and it's almost never the ad itself, right? So take a look here, for example, one of my clients' accounts, and he has a calendar full of scheduled appointments and booked jobs. Now, this is what it looks like when you have all 5 systems work. You're not losing these jobs because you're the worst company. You've got the crews, you've got the reviews, you've got 20 years on some of these guys. You're losing them because somebody else answered first, and the homeowner never got far enough to compare you. He didn't weigh you against them and pick them, right? He just never got to the weighing part. I'm here to tell you that's not a sales problem, that's a speed problem, and it's fixable. And if you're still buying leads off Angie's List or Thumbtack, it's the same problem as a subscription fee, right? There's an entire industry built on selling you leads, not appointments, not jobs, just leads, right? So the way these platforms work is that they sell you the same homeowner to all 4 of you, and then if you don't close them, they just tell you it's a closing rate problem, right? Well, I'm here to tell you it isn't. You were just never the only person in the room. Everything I'm about to show you is how you stop being one of the 4, right? But before we start, this video is for you if you can actually take on more work. If your crews are maxed out and you're turning away jobs, this isn't your problem right now. You should go higher before you go market. Contractor campaigns break in one of these 5 places. To start off, we have your creative, and then you have the offer, we have the page and form, and then your follow-up. This is the one I see broken the most. We'll get there, and then your sales process. Now, I don't care what your cost per lead is. I care what a booked, showed up estimate actually calls you. A roofer had showed me his ad the other day, and I asked him where that photo was taken, and he just simply couldn't tell me. He said, I don't know. He came to me with the template his last agency had used, and then the house was in a state that he had never worked in. Meanwhile, his phone was full of teardown footage that he just thought was completely unprofessional. Now, I'm going to show you 2 ads, and I want you to think for a second as a homeowner and see which one you would actually stop to scroll, right? So take a look, for example, we have Prime Roofing. They're showing a roof done right, and a free estimate. Now, this can be any company in any state, and you're gone in a second. On the other hand, let's take a look at Big Sky Roofing. It's very clear who they are, what they do, and the finished result, right? They have a visible crew, they show the process, and overall, this looks family operated. Now, if I was a homeowner scrolling, I know exactly which one of these 2 ads I'm clicking, and there's a reason for that, right? So there are 4 levels from weakest to strongest. Now, if in the creative itself, you're just showing a roof, a picture of an object, nothing really happens, right? A roof and materials, a real job happened here, but that's not really convincing. Roof, materials, and your crew. Now the homeowner is buying the 4 to 5 guys that come work on their house 2, 3, 4, 5 days, however long it is. Now, if you have a roof, materials, crew, and photos of you guys actually working, this is the closest thing to a referral that you can buy. One good rule of thumb is that if there's no person in your shot, that's not the strongest version of the ad, right? If you go on top of the roof and start filming, but then you edit your guys out, just do the complete opposite. Now, I'm gonna just show you this quick shoot list that if you were to implement these 4 steps into the ad that you film in 90 seconds on a job you're already on, that alone beats the one an agency designs for you in a week. If there's anything you should take away from this part is that Meta does not know who needs a new roof, right? Your creative does all the targeting. Polish is not the variable, recognition is. So if we take a look at the offer section, pulled up 2 competitors in one market, and they both said the same thing. Free estimate. Same words, same button, and now he's left choosing between 2 offers, but there are no offers. So what does he do next? He defaults to the next variable, which is price. And that's how a good contractor ends up in a bidding war that he never agreed to be in. So take a look at these 2 ads, for example. Free estimate is what every competitor says. So what does the homeowner do? He just saves the post and never calls. Now, if I were to redo these call to actions, this is exactly what I would put, and you have a higher chance of actually capturing the homeowner's attention. What does a good offer look like? Well, it can look as simple as this. Get a new roof as low as $8,500 plus free gutter cleans. Keep that in mind. Well, what is the outcome as a homeowner? Well, they get a new roof at an affordable price. What would be the reason to act? The free gutter clean acts as a limited value offer, right? I've seen this bait and switch work really well when it comes to roofing, siding, pressure washing, window cleaning, you name it. If this is the determining factor whether you do or don't get that 10K plus job, just simply add it onto the bill. The homeowner will never really know, right? What is a risk reversal, right? They're hiring a roofer with hundreds of reviews and locally trusted, right? And then what would be the trust? Well, strong social proof, and they have local authority in their city and state. Your offer doesn't just work as a headline, it's a filter, right? If you consistently run free estimates, it's going to push for those people who are just price shopping. Whereas if you were to run inspection plus photo report, now it's going to look for those people that they know they have a problem. So your offer isn't just unpersuasive, it actively selects for the leads you don't want. And if we go down here, you should have an offer that turns 4 times a year. You know, in the spring, you could have something like storm and winter damage. In the summer, you can have book ahead before the schedule fills. In fall, you could have something like beat the freeze. In the winter, you can have book now, build in spring. It doesn't really matter as long as you're changing it for that season, right? The homeowner's reason to act changes every season. Most run free estimates all year round, which is never going to work. Now, if we go over here, this acts as the same principle as an offer, but it would just be like the second gate, right? And this would be your page and form. The other day, I had a contractor ask me to audit his form, and I just simply asked him, well, what happens once they actually fill out the form? And he told me nothing. The form said, we'll be in touch soon. And then when they called 2 days later, 1 day later, the homeowner didn't even know what the reason for the call was, right? The problem wasn't that his leads were garbage. It's just that nobody ever asked him anything. So if we look at this, all it asks for is the name, the email, the phone number, the service requested, and then the message, right? You learn nothing except what somebody typed here. Service requested is probably the only thing that has any work. This form has no urgency, no reason to act, and you have no idea who this person really is. And then what happens once they actually click that submit? Well, the page just says, we'll be in touch soon. And then the chase begins, sending them texts, emails, voicemails, and then silence. 2 identical call to actions, 2 cities, and then just 1 dead end. The form didn't qualify them at all, so now you have to go manually and qualify them yourself. Whereas if we look at this quizzing funnel instead, right? Clear difference. The reason this works really well is when a homeowner keeps continuing, right? This acts as a qualification field. And then it doesn't just stop at submit, right? It's pick a time. So nobody picks a Wednesday at 11 a.m. unless they're serious, and it's not you chasing them, they already booked you. So there's a trade-off between doing this and the contact form, right? This will give you less names in the contact form, but this is what it will give you instead. A calendar full of people who will actually be there when your guy shows up, right? So at the end of the day, you don't need more leads. You need fewer no-show appointments and fewer tire kickers just eating up your time. Every dead appointment costs you a truck, a guy, and 2 hours you're not going to get back. This is most of actually what we build, and it's the same reason why we measure off booked appointments instead of leads. So a contact form gets you a name, a qualifying funnel gets you an appointment. Remember that guy from the beginning that I said he came in second? Well, this is where he came in second, right? So a raw lead comes in, and then the first layer would be speed to lead, texting this potential customer in less than 60 seconds, calling them in less than 5 minutes, completely automated, even after work hours. Now for layer 2, this is the part that most contractors don't have figured out, but this is where most of the jobs are, right? Multi-day nature. If they don't respond the first day, they reply the next day, and then they text the day after that, and then they keep doing this for over a week, and then just most contractors just stop after they get a no, or it's like they simply don't answer the phone. So your whole job is to try to get that appointment, which then turns into an estimate, right? But you don't just want to keep these people just hanging by the sidelines. You want to send them reminders, confirmations, and then if they no-show you, you keep following it up. And then what happens out the top? You get a booked estimate on the calendar, completely confirmed, right? This isn't just one phone call. It's a machine with 3 layers stacked on top of each other. So let's quickly do the math of this, right? If you have a lead coming in on Sunday, at 9 a.m., right? And your team or your office or you don't respond until Monday, 9 a.m. Well, what's the gap in between this? 24 hours, right? Whereas, your competitors who have all of this figured out and a system actually in place, well, if they get a lead at Sunday, 9 p.m. or 9 a.m., they can obviously respond in as little as 11 minutes. It took them to text, send a call, and get them on a confirmed appointment. So the homeowner didn't actually pick the best contractor. He just picked the one that answered first. Now, here's the part that should bother you, right? Is that if you were to have landed this job right here, you would have had better reviews, a better crew, but instead, you just never got in the room because you didn't have the proper systems in place. Most of the time, you don't book the customer on the first text, right? Well, booking a job can take 5 or more touches. Most contractors stop after one. If in your first 60 seconds, you have that first call, and honestly, right after the first call is where most contractors, they already quit right here. Or after the 2 hours, right? Okay, this person didn't answer after the first 60 seconds. Well, they're probably busy. I'm gonna just call them in 2 hours, right? Boom. Didn't answer, quit here. Look, the job isn't won on the first call. It's one in the 5 touches that most contractors don't make. Now, this contractor, he had 11 estimates sitting in his pipeline, right? And he just said they were dead. Well, they weren't dead. They were just unattended, right? So before we start on this, let's quickly do the math, right? So he had 11 estimates just sitting in his pipeline that he didn't touch after they were contacted, right? So what is this potential revenue? $132,000 that he just had sitting there in his pipeline that he just completely forgot about and stopped contacting after the first time. And the worst part of all is that he actually had the crews to take on most of these jobs, right? But this honestly isn't a marketing number, right? This could potentially be a year's worth of salary. And if we go back to this, the estimate pile, most contractors, they give up after one call. So then what happens if they don't answer? Well, they go back to zero, and then every month you start over, right? Whereas, if you have this pipeline, you get estimate 1, estimate 2, estimate 3, estimate 4, estimate 5, all coming in, even on a slow month, right? Nothing you build comes off the pile. Look, I'm going to be the first one to tell you that just because you booked a client, that does not mean you close them, right? You need a bunch of estimates because, you're never guaranteed to close all of them, right? But let's say you have 5 estimates sitting right here, right? But you close 3 and each are like 15K, right? Obviously, the more you follow up with these people and, if you can get a verbal confirmation from them, yeah, come and do an estimate for me, there's a higher likelihood they're going to go with you instead of some other company. Okay. And so right now, you are the one who chases the leads, but you need to become the one who owns the entire system. All right, let's take a look at this example. Let's say this is you, right? The ads, the follow-ups, the estimates, the jobs, the bookings, the calls, they all come through you, right? Now, I'm not saying this doesn't work, right? In fact, it does work until you're on the roof at 2 p.m. with 3 leads coming in simultaneously and then having nobody to follow up on. So then you call them back 8, 7 hours later and now they're cold, right? So what I like to say is that hustle has a ceiling. Once you stop calling, the pipeline stops. Every month you start at 0 after that. Whereas if you were to have this entire, the quiz qualification, the calendar books, the follow-up pipeline that takes in 60 seconds, this entire nurture still runs and you're going to get that same job booked. But the difference is that you're still going to be on that roof at 2 p.m. doing what you do best while still having more work coming in automatically. Now, the goal was never to get more leads. The goal was to have your crews filled up for April, November, and in those slow months to the point where, your only job as the operator, as the owner, is to scale and grow your crew even more to take on even more jobs. One of these you have to show up for, while the other one shows up for you. And look, everything I just showed you, you can build yourself, right? The entire framework, it's right here on the board. Nothing's hidden. But honestly, it's a lot of work, right? There's a landing page, there's a quiz form, there's a CRM, there's a continuation sequence, right? You need somebody to be looking at these numbers every week. But if you'd rather have it built and run for you, there's a link below. It's a call with me and not a sales team, right? I'm gonna be very straightforward with you on it. If I see that your crews are already maxed out or you just don't have the sufficient volume to make this worth the spend, I'll tell you right then and there that we just can't work out, right? I'd rather find out in that 15-minute call than 3 months in. Now, if it does make sense, we'll talk about what it would actually look like.